Salamat Balik, which is Syrian for welcome. And welcome to Inner Earth, your future home. What we're going to do today is give you an insight into what Inner Earth is all about. And as we do this, I'm going to add my own insights as to what I remember about Inner Earth. What is going to happen to the surface of planet Earth as it's restored is that all the so-called lost or sunken continents of this planet will return to the surface area. The continent of Lemuria will be restored and take up a large area of the Pacific Ocean. And of course Atlantis, which the Atlantic Ocean is named after, will also rise. And this will lead to a whole new area where we're almost 50-50 surface area land, surface area water, oceans. Now, part of this plan is also to restore all of the major ecosystems in this planet that mankind has destroyed over the last 13 millennia, and also from the period from the destruction of Lemuria. So what we're going to have is a lush and pristine Earth that looks a lot different than the one we now exist in. And further, since we'll all be fully conscious beings live within a planet, not outside of the planet. So the world of Inner Earth will be the world that we will reside in. Only on special node areas where there are temples to help with the planetary guardianship or stewardship, as some people prefer, will allow you to therefore come to the surface as a group to do a ritual as part of this standard process of helping the Earth to become balanced and at its maximum potential of energy. So this whole process of change is about two things. It's about the Earth returning to what she was, including her original ecosystems, and it's about human beings becoming what they were on the surface world and returning to their family in Inner Earth and creating a new part of the star nation of the solar system, or whatever name we'd like to call it. Because the same process is going to happen on Mars, it's going to happen in Venus, and it's going to happen in, whether you call it Bellona as I do, or in Maldek as a lot of other people do, it's going to happen there. Of course, in that particular aspect, it's going to be a massive reconstitution of all the asteroid belt's components to create a planet nearly 3.5 times the size of our planet, planet Earth. And this has massive oceans, massive amounts of ecosystem to be recreated, as well as 4 natural moons, and of course the artificial moon, which is our moon right now, will be returned to it. And the 2 original moons that were destroyed through mankind's various ideas, mainly by the Atlanteans, will of course be restored. So we'll have 2 moons, 3/4 the size of the moon we now see every evening, and we'll also have an Earth that looks a lot different than the Earth that we now know. And we will be fully conscious members of this planet and of the entire solar system, of all the various 4 water worlds that exist from Venus through Bellona. And this whole world and this whole solar system will be operating at its maximum God-given efficiency. And that's really what this whole process is about, is we are to become fully conscious stewards of the solar system and indirectly of the entire galaxy. Now, the most important thing to remember is that Earth really doesn't look the way all the geologists say it looks. It doesn't look that way at all. So what we're going to do is have the first slide, and as you look at it, what you're going to see is this marvelous picture of what the Earth looks like as you approach it from outside the solar system and inward. And you'll see in the particular slide that the sun is in front of the Earth, just barely ticking over the edge. And as you come in from the moon, this is how the Earth usually looks, the clouds, etc. And as you move in and go around the Earth, suddenly it's nighttime. And as you look at the next slide, you'll see North America and South America with all the different patterns of lights where all the cities are. And so this is, as the ship moves in toward Earth, It now has gone behind the sun, so to speak, and it sees the darkness of the Earth. And as it moves closer, and this is a picture of Apollo 16, an official NASA photograph, as it came in from the moon, so this is the same basic picture that we're talking about here, and as you look in, you'll suddenly see at the top this funny looking depression. And what that is, that's the North Polar Hole. Now if you were going into inner Earth, what you would be looking at is this place where you want to go. So you would actually be moving in, and the next one, which is actually a blow-up of the same photograph, you would now see the North Polar Hole, and you would go inside the Earth. Now there are other ways of getting inside Earth, but let's first look in the next slide at the cross-section of what Mother Earth really looks like. Earth, like all planets, is one that is hollow on the inside and has a floating, because of the nature of the geomagnetics and gravitational fields of the planet, has a central core that's actually floating like an inner sun. And this sun, because of the actions of gravity and the actions of the geomagnetics of the planet, glows. And it's actually almost as bright. It's about 3/4 to 85% to 90%, depending on the time of year, as bright as that of the actual sun that we see here on the outside of the planet. Now the actual polar hole is about 600 miles across, and you'll see that by simply looking at the top and the bottom of this particular diagram that you're looking at right now. And then in the middle of it is the great central sun that we were just talking about. Now surrounding it is the inside of the Earth, and actually the Earth is a continuation both inside and outside of one another. It's almost as if the Earth was a kind of a wrapper, and it rolled itself all the way on the inside. So the outside of the planet and the inside of the planet, as far as its topography, its physical features, is almost the same. Although the mountains on the inside of the Earth tend to be a little bigger. So if you look now at another one, which is the next slide, now this cross-section allows you to get a better idea of what I'm talking about here. On the outside is the outside of the planet. The inside is the inside of the planet. And you'll see that the inside has mountains and oceans, etc. And in the middle between the outside crust and the inside crust, as I like to call it, is the center. And in those places, which is roughly about 400 miles, in other words, the middle, is this whole central section that we're talking about here in this cross-section. There's 800 miles across. And so you have between 400 miles, either the inside of the Earth or the outside crust. You have these various so-called crystal city caverns, which I have here in the diagram. And so you have these caverns inside the Earth. So actually, if you were to look at what is the makeup of inner Earth, the first part is the actual outside surface, or the inside surface if you were on the inside. And that, of course, is the mountains, the rivers, the streams, the continents, etc., which are usually, the oceans on the inside are actually larger, the mountains are actually bigger, and the plains are larger. So you can tell from looking on the inside of the Earth, if you had a map of the inside of the Earth, that it's slightly different. The outside of the Earth, because of the atmosphere and rain, etc., the weather is a lot more worn, and that's why the mountains are bigger and the oceans are larger, etc., etc., etc. So what you have here is the Earth. But let's look at what the Earth is. So if we can go back to the first bullets. Mother Earth is a 12-faceted crystal with large entry and exit holes at the north and south poles. Inner Earth's topography is just an extension of the physical features found on the Earth's outer surface. The central sun is smaller, not as bright, as we said, no more than 80 or 90% at the very most, and never sets. This is another difference, is you have the equivalent that you'd be having this time of year in the northern hemisphere, which is the so-called 24-hour sun. Now, if we look at the inner Earth, as I said, the mountains are taller oceans bigger, jungles denser, and meadow areas larger. Vibrant life is everywhere. This is because on inner Earth, the energies of the planet, because it gets the direct energies of the core, is a lot more vibrant, as it says here. It's a lot more livable. The energy is greater. So what you actually have is 24 hours a day of this vibrant energy hitting every part of inner Earth. And of course it spews over, and at night it becomes more visible, and this leads to the aurora borealis, the various things that are seen in the sky, the electrical displays. They're actually not from cosmic energies, they're remnants of this bright energy from the core of the Earth. Now Agartha is filled with crystal cities that dot her inner Earth landscape. Her capital is Shambhala, and we'll be talking about all of that later on. There are also large caverns, as we just described, in the Earth that contain various crystal cities. One of these is Shambhala, and another is under Mount Shasta here in California, which is called Telos. Now let's look at how to find these major portals which we're talking about. Now, because of the fall of Atlantis and the rise on this planet of limited conscious beings such as ourselves, what happened was the people who took over, the Anunnaki, acted very much like those people who wanted to be the sky gods or the creator gods for the limited conscious humans who were now in amnesia and had forgotten their origins. So what they did was they sealed up most of the major portals. Now, where are these portals found? The major portals are found on around the equator, 19.5 degrees latitude from both poles, as well as these two polar holes that we've talked about. Many of these portals, because of what the Anunnaki did, those people who live in inner Earth have made these portals to be hidden, and they're found in mountains, thick forests, and under rivers or lakes. Most of these portals were destroyed by the Anunnaki, as I said, and only a select few can still be used. So let's look at how the crystal Earth lines up. Now, if you look at the crystal Earth, as I said, and as the slide shows, you can get a better idea where all these particular red arrows are represents these points that we just talked about.